Hi. Hi, this is Miss Litton, and this is my lovely period 4 honors biology class. Say hi.
Hi.
They're so excited. It's Friday. And we are going back. We've already done ecosystems, but now we are going back and starting at the very beginning. And we're going to start talking about biology. And some of this you've already learned, and it's going to be a review, but this is kind of a big picture. So we're going to start off first with the definition of biology, and that is the study of what? Life. Okay, so put that in your notes, the study of life. All right, now, if something is alive, it has certain characteristics, and I'm going to teach you those characteristics, but here's the deal. It's going to be difficult for some of you. Don't type them in your group shared notes. You're going to wait till we've finished learning them, and then you're going to type them in for memory, and then you will understand them. So help your bio buddy. They're going to want to touch that keyboard and just say, no, bio buddy. Okay. And we will go through. And this has some motions to it, and for those of you listening in, these motions have been recorded and they're already up on YouTube. It's called Characteristics of Life. So here's the first one. Repeat after me. It is like you are looking through a file folder. Get those hands off that keyboard. Watch me. Living things are organized. So it's like you're looking through some files. Do it with me. Living things are organized. Made of cells. Okay, so that's going to become important just a little bit. So do that first one with me. Living things are organized. Made of cells. The second characteristic of life, they acquire materials. So reach out. They acquire materials and energy. And you do have to include otherwise, yeah. Okay. From the top, living things are organized, made of cells. Hey, you're not too cool for school. They acquire materials and energy. Okay. The third thing they do, okay, is and you're going to be right here, energy. They maintain homeostasis. Do you know what I'm doing right now? Okay, so for instance, if you had a temperature, okay, 98.6. Not all of you are 98.6. Some of you might be at 99. Okay, some of you might be at 98. But if your temperature gets a little too hot, what does your body do?
Sweat.
What does it do? Sweat. Okay, and if you get too cold, what do? Shiver. And you're just trying to hover right around that temperature. You know what that reminds me of? The temperature of an ecosystem. When I think of, remember the J and the S-shaped growth curves? Remember the S? Where does it hover at? That's right. And it's like you have that for all different systems in your body. How many of you know a diabetic? Okay? Could they run into trouble if their sugar level is too high? Yes. Could they run into trouble if their sugar level is too low? Yes. So they want to keep it just right. Okay? So that's what I mean about maintaining homeostasis. So from the top, living things are organized, made of cells. Do it with us. Do it with us. Go again. Here we go. Living things are organized, made of cells. They acquire materials and energy. They maintain homeostasis. And the next thing you're right here. They respond to stimuli. Say it with me. They respond to stimuli. You have already had a whole chapter on responding to stimuli. What was the chapter title? It started with a B. Behavior. You've already studied all behavior, and that's just about this. That's this, okay, responding to stimuli. However, some of that stimuli might lead to the next characteristic of life, okay? So you're right here. They respond to stimuli. No, pelvic is holding firm, not moving. You just go and reproduce. And reproduce, okay? Yeah, enough said there. We'll come back to that, okay? And reproduce. Now, today you all get to have a vagina. Oh, awesome. And push out a baby. So you're going to go and reproduce.
And reproduce.
I have a little experience with this, and it's not just okay? Anyway, it's okay? But for us right now, it just transitions into our next part and reproduce. Okay, from the top. Here we go. Living things are organized, made of cells. They acquire materials and energy. They maintain homeostasis. They respond to stimuli and reproduce. They grow. Now they're growing. It's probably misogynistic. I don't know another one to do for that. Okay? So let's go again. They grow and develop. And then the next thing they do is they adapt. What are some adaptations, let's say, of a cheetah? Speed. What's another adaptation of a cheetah? Spotted. Okay, what else? Teeth, right, sharp. Okay, what are some adaptations of birds? Fly, hollow bones. Good. Okay, so this is what I want you to do for here. We just developed. We were here, right? Your hands are down low, but they're like this, right? Because you just developed. Okay, just turn your hands in and go like this, and you're going to go, they adapt, and die. That's the last characteristic. Okay? So, from the top, ready? Living things are organized, made of cells. They acquire materials and energy. They maintain homeostasis. They respond to stimuli and reproduce. They grow and develop, and they adapt and die. Perfect. Type it up. See? You know it all.
Okay, Harmon, you go. Harmon.
Living stations.
Okay, give me a minute.
Joy, your printing is so perfect. It is a font.
Yeah, Joy.
She's not gonna say that about me.
Did you hear that? She's not going to say that about me.
I said that.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay, now, we have another little thing to learn because we need to talk about how life is organized. And again, do you have all this? Does anybody need more time? Donde? Okay, sweet. Now, again, no typing, just processing in the brain, okay? How is life organized? The very first one, okay? If we go back, all the way to the bottom. Started from the bottom now here. Okay, at the very bottom. We start with atoms. Last year in Foundations, did you learn about atoms? Yes, you did. Atoms can hook together to form what? Molecules. There are 3 important inorganic molecules. Guess them as I act them out. Ready? Oxygen and water. Those are your 3 important inorganic molecules. Okay? Oxygen, carbon dioxide, and water. Okay, you're just listening. Okay, because you're going to type it because you'll know it. Okay, there are 4 important organic molecules. You learned those 4 important organic molecules last year. 3 of them you regular think about eating. What are some of those important organic molecules? Tell me.
Glucose.
Okay. I heard nucleic acids, which are built out of nucleotides. Nucleic acids. Good. No, you're right. Nucleic acids. What else? Proteins, which are built out of amino acids. Good. So proteins. One's carbohydrates, which are built out of sugars. And I heard lipids, of which you have fats and steroids. Okay. So atoms will build these molecules, and as we will see, these molecules we will use to build cells. Now, not all cells are created equal. There are 2 big categories of cells, prokaryotic and eukaryotic. And yes, sometimes it's spelled with a K and sometimes it's spelled with a C. Don't stress out about that part, okay? Prokaryotic and eukaryotic. For the record, you are eukaryotic. You are made out of eukaryotic cells. They are larger and they contain organelles. For instance, like you have organs in your body, you have the brain of your body. A cell has a brain. You know what it's called? Nucleus. A cell has a stomach. Do you know what it's called? A lysosome. Yeah, lysosome. So there are different organelles within a cell. Cells that have organelles are called eukaryotic. They have membrane enclosed organelles. Prokaryotic cells do not. Prokaryotic cells are things like bacteria. They are smaller And they have DNA, but it's not inside of a membrane, so it doesn't have a nucleus. It's just DNA. It's in an area called the nucleoid region. Okay, those are prokaryotic cells. So that's why I have atom, molecule, and in parentheses I have organelle, because not all cells have organelles. And then I have a cell. Okay, now I want you to do two things. I want you to type just that much up to cell and then stop for a second. But I want the person in the slate seat to explain the build-up to that point. Okay? Go ahead.
Explain atoms and molecules.
Armin, sit over here. Armin.
Okay, so atoms are the smallest particles that make up everything, and then atoms can combine, that's not the right word, but they come together to create molecules, and then molecules can the cells are made up of molecules and atoms, so probably right? Cells, the native organelles. Oh, today's lesson is simple. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Now, when you take similar cells and hook them together, you will build tissues. So tissues are just groups of similar cells. Then you take those tissues and you can build an organ, like your heart. Okay? Your heart has nervous tissue in it. It has muscular tissue in it, specifically cardiac muscle. Okay? It has connective tissue in it. It has epithelial tissue. Okay? All of that makes up your heart. Your heart then is part of a larger system. What do we call that system?
Organ system.
A circulatory system.
Oh,
Good.
that's true.
You put your systems all together and you have a what?
Organ system.
Organism.
Oh, that's
Okay? And then, so type up. Now the rest all the way to the top, including population, community, ecosystem, biosphere. So have it go from atom to biosphere, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about it. Guys, remember, somebody like Joy, whose printing is really neat, you may want to use an iPad Pro and take a picture of the terms and add them to the bottom of your group shared notes. Or like Sarah Levy, her terms are really neat. Okay, so take a picture of them and then add them to the bottom of your notes so you have it as a reference.
Oh, mine's probably
Okay, got that typed? Come back to me, gentlemen, focus. Come back. So let's learn these. Goes like this on this list. Repeat after me. Atom. Molecule. Organelle. Cell. Now we start here because this is where life starts. So we're like, okay, now we're starting. Okay, as far as bio, cell. Okay, cell, and then you go like this: tissue. Organ. Organ system. Organism. Then a population is a group of the same species, right? And then a community is more than one population, right? So you go like this: population, community, and then you add in the environment, like rain. You just say ecosystem, or you can make it rain like this, I don't care. Okay? Ecosystem, and then biosphere. Okay? Whole thing. See if you can do it without looking at that. Okay? Here we go. With me. Do it. Atom, molecule, organelle. With me. Cell, tissue, organ system, organism, population, community, ecosystem, biosphere. Yay! Now, that is the organization of life because we know life, ready? Here we go. Living things are organized, made of cells, right? Cells, that's where we are. They what? Acquire materials and energy. They maintain homeostasis. They And they and they and yay. Okay, good job. All right. Now, as you level up, okay, an organ can do more than just a tissue. An organ system can do more than just an organ. And as you level up, these are called emergent properties. Just like the dolphin emerges out of the water, okay? You get additional properties as you level up. So on emergent properties, each level of organization acquires new properties. (42) number. Let's try for some hundies. Internet meme people. I send you.
Chemistry cat. Oh my god. First world problem.
Good guy, great.
Me Gusta. That's what I
Samantha, you chucked in the wrong sometimes, baby.
No, I know that's the meme. That's a meme. But like,
You gave me all your shit. Well, here are the terms.
not me Gusta. Me Gusta is not a meme.
Oh. Put your whole package together. Okay.
No,
Put your whole package together, and then I will.
you're laughing at me.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't give you that. I
Okay,
think
so
someone
who's
turned
taking
in my throat. I had them with it. Does anybody have any terms that they got extra ones? Oh, there they are.
Gotta highlight that.
Yes, it's got past that. Okay, yes, you want to put them together.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. Will we get it right? No, we will not.
I'm first.
Okay. Yeah, who did get it wrong? That would be good to know.
I'm bad at rhymes.
Did you get it?
Wow, I lied. It took you 29 seconds to fail. So let's talk about this. Why is A the wrong answer? What don't we like about A? Molecule before cell and tissue before organ. Check with your bio buddies. See if they're in the shadowlands or sunshine. Shadowlands or sunshine.
Let's look at who got it first.
Good job, Asian father.
Well, it's funny,
Okay.
but it is me.
Oh, I got you. All right. So, come back to me. Okay. Hey, did everybody get to sign something? Anybody still need to sign? Where's the other one? Did you get to sign, sweetheart? If you want to, you don't have to. Whatever you want to do, totally up to you. Okay. Yes. No, sweetheart. At 11:35. Oh, okay. So kids that are in band, what will you do to get the right? You'll have your people that you're involved in group shared notes, right? So you'll still have them. Okay.
She's the only one.
Oh no. Go, Katie.
Okay.
And then also you could watch. Yes, thank you. You could watch YouTube. Good. Okay. So acquire materials and energy. We've talked about that. And for other, it can be easier, harder to acquire those materials. Homeostasis. Could Blue, please give the definition of what homeostasis is. Go ahead, Blue.
I'm not entirely sure if she's sad.
No, she's definitely laughing at something.
Or, I mean, it's a little bit confusing.
Her right arm is like covered in sweat, but the rest of her body is not.
All right? Now, responding to stimuli, and then that response to stimuli is called behavior. We already talked about that. To reproduce.
Oh, okay, that's a good
Okay?
for that.
Joining union of sperm and an egg. You end up growing and developing. Now, adaptations. What are some adaptations these penguins have?
Fur?
Fur. What else? Tell me, because I'm Stampede.
Beaks.
Because they
Beaks.
are on, they have on wings as well.
Yes, now let's talk about that. So, what used to be useful probably in their ancestral past, wings, right, have been adapted to be used for what instead?
Swimming.
Swimming, okay? Do you think the ancestral penguin could fly?
Sure.
Yeah, but those that could use their wings to help navigate through the waters, those are the ones that are surviving and what? Reproducing, right? And the ones that are reproducing, pretty soon, all the are going to be using those wings for swimming. Okay? That, happening over time, is evolution. Who selected what trait was best? Nature, and that's called natural selection. Okay? Yes?
Didn't whales used to have feet?
They had hip bones, yes. Hip bones, legs, exactly. So that told you whales used to be walkers on land. Okay?
That's so weird.
Yeah. So, come back to me, you guys. We'll talk about that, and when we get into our evolution chapter, we have a whole section on that. Okay? So, adaptations are modifications that make organisms better able to function in a particular environment. Adaptations make organisms better able to function in a particular environment. Evolution is descent with modification over time. Descent with modification over time. Okay, and then natural selection is a mechanism for evolution. The environment is selecting which traits are going to be passed on because organisms with these traits are the ones that survive to reproduce. That survive to reproduce. All right, so these are big ticket items we're going to be studying this year. When we talk about, we'll be talking about organs and organ systems and tissues. We'll be talking about evolution, and we'll be talking about, okay, here are all these different organisms that have adapted to these different environments. How are we going to classify them? That process is called taxonomy. And taxonomy, you look at similarities, you know, how did they appear? And you look at evolutionary relationships. Where did they come from? And the most widely used way to classify organisms is to compare DNA sequencing. So the more similar the DNA, the more closely related. Or you can look at, in proteins, you can look at amino acid sequences. And we will discuss that as well. So for taxonomy, it's the discipline of identifying and grouping organisms according to certain rules, and that reflects evolution. That reflects evolution. Now, you all wore green today. Why did you wear, the most of you wear green today?
Rally.
Rally. And what group are you in?
Sophomore.
Sophomores. Okay? So sophomores wear green. You are classified as a sophomore now by the color that you are wearing. Okay? You belong though to a bigger category. What bigger category do you belong to? Oak Park High School, right? And Oak Park High School belongs to this community, which is in, OPUSD, okay, which is part of a certain county, which is part of a bigger state, which is part of a bigger country, right? So we have classification categories as well. The biggest classification of all are domains. And there are 3 domains out there. Okay? Eukarya, which is made out of eukaryotic cells like you. And then there is bacteria, which is a type of prokaryotic cell, and archaea, which is a type of prokaryotic cell. And we'll talk about differences between those. So the first category here is domain. The domain that you are in is eukarya. Good job, Van. I'm already going to be impressed with what you're doing. No? I'm not going to be impressed? I'm always impressed with you guys. You'll be awesome. I believe in you, Van. Van, go Van. Go Van, go Van. You'll be awesome. Okay, very quickly, so you have somebody to sit by, you can realign yourself because a bunch of people walked out of the room, so if you want to realign, feel free to realign. Katie, stay strong. Stay fierce. Okay. All right, so we are in the domain eukarya. The kingdom that we are in is Animalia. Okay? Do me a quick favor. Stop typing just for a minute. Let me walk you through it, and then you can do all the typing you want. Okay, so just take a look. Eyes up, eyes up, eyes up. Okay, I know it's hard when you're like, I want to type. Domain eukarya, kingdom Animalia, that's what we are in. Okay, our phylum that we belong to is Chordata. That's because during our embryonic development, we have a notochord. Okay, we are part of a subphylum called Vertebrata, where we have vertebrae that develop around our spinal cord. We'll be talking about that later. The class we are in is Mammalia. Look around this room. We are all mammals. 2 things to be a mammal: nipples and hair. Now, it does not matter if you are a boy or a girl, you have hair and nipples. Okay? And that's because in that process of developing, you already made those nipples before your hormones started kicking in. You would default female, but if those of you that are male in the room, it's because testosterone kicked in and you became your male self. Now, so you're going to remember class because everyone in this class has nipples and hair. Okay? The order we are in is primate. Okay? There are other organisms in with primates too, and I just, to simplify it, I think monkey. Okay, you're waiting to type because you're processing with me now. And the way you're going to remember that is I order, I go, no monkey. And so I'm ordering the primate around. So say no monkey.
No monkey.
Okay, so hopefully you remember that. Order, primata, or primate. The family we belong to is Hominidae because our family is home in the day.
What about
family
at night?
Hominidae. Okay?
What about
And
at
then
night?
our genus species is Homo sapien. Okay? So domain eukarya, you're going to remember animal kingdom. Phylum Chordata. I don't have a great way to remember that. PC, if you can put it together. I don't have a good one for that. Everybody has nipples and hair. Class Mammalia. Order no monkey. Primate. Family Hominidae. Genus species. Okay, so you want to add both the classification levels and man's classification into your notes. Okay, go ahead.
What about at night?
Sweetheart, go with the analogy.
Okay. That's a lot of highlighting. But everything's important, right?
Yeah, but if you.
Look,
What?
okay.
Oh, am I in your way? I'm so sorry.
I will unhighlight
Yes.
the Homo sapien, because that's, she highlighted everything that's being written, so. See,
You can't adapt in your lifetime.
see,
When we talk about adapting,
Look,
you
I
could
did
be
it.
like, you adapt because your brother's always late, so you get used to it. This is different. This is in a species over time.
Herman.
see what they did.
What? Good job.
All right.
All right. Anybody need more time for this? Okay.
I'm gonna just drag this in there.
Those of you that are done, could you ping pong back and forth with your bio buddy, taking turns starting at the top? and saying them just so you start learning them? Go ahead.
So our domain is eukarya, because you, phylum chordata, order primates,
Family.
genus Homo. We're so smart.
Okay, now, to help you remember the order of this, you can come up with mnemonics for things like this, which you might already have. Did King Philip come over for good soup? Okay. If you want to, you can.
There's no F.
Okay, so, guys, remember our goal is to make sure we understand the material. Okay, so use one that works for you. I'm just offering one out for you. Did King Philip come over for good soup? Domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Now, let's look at an example of this. Okay, here is the kingdom Animalia. All of these organisms are in the animal kingdom. But if we dial it down into phylum Chordata, who do we lose? Sea star, because he is in phylum Echinodermata. So he's gone. He's in a different phylum, but he's still part of the animal kingdom. We dial it down to class Mammalia, who did we lose? Snakes. Okay? Order Carnivora, who did we lose? Squirrel. Though that would be super awesome to see a squirrel like and then we go down to Ursidae and we lose the fox, and then we lose the panda, etc. The most inclusive category is what? What is the most inclusive category? Domain. It's not on this list, but domain. What is the most exclusive category?
Species.
Species. Good. I saw a hand up.
I was going to say what humans like domain was.
Oh, all right.
Where Arner's bio?
Guys, I want to show you this. If I forget to look at me, it's going to be right here in for return. Okay?
I like the babies. It's a nice touch.
Adds a little more to the slide.
Yeah.
Let's go lazy college senior, socially awkward penguin. Oh, they might be gone. Maybe they're bandalicious.
Oh, that's probably true. Then why are more than one of them submitted?
I pressed the wrong button.
Success.
So remember, when we say what class, what does everybody have in this class? Nipples and hair. So we're mammals. All right. The three big domains. Okay, and again, I'm going to tell you, when I was in school and when I started teaching, this was not even discussed. This came up later as more information was known, and as they were able to analyze cell walls and cell membranes and look at DNA and look at RNA, then this was developed. So bigger than a kingdom are the three domains, and all life can fit into them. Eukaryota, right here, those are eukarya, have membrane enclosed organelles. If you look at the back of the room, the four posters on the right are all eukarya. Animal kingdom, plant kingdom, fungus, and protista. Protista is usually unicellular, but it can be multicellular depending on the classification. Those four kingdoms, they are all different, right? We are heterotrophs. Plants are autotrophs, but our cellular structure with our organelles makes us eukarya. We share that domain. Bacteria and archaea, both are prokaryotic, but they are different in where they live and some of their structures. Bacteria, most numerous of all. There are more bacteria on and in your body than there are people on the planet. Okay? Bacteria everywhere. Archaea, also, the other domain, also prokaryotic, they are extremophiles. They live in very specific environments, maybe at a hydrothermal vent. Maybe in your large intestines, named methanogens. Maybe where it's really salty and they're called halophiles. Or thermoacidophiles, where they live where it's really hot and a low pH. So on your notes, bacteria, prokaryotic, lack membrane-bound organelles. Lack membrane-bound organelles. Structurally simple, but metabolically complex. Archaea are prokaryotic. Differences between bacteria, they organize their DNA differently. And their cell walls and membranes are different, and they are called extremophiles. Yes?
I have a question about adapting.
Okay.
Didn't we have like bigger, larger, what is it called? Like ducks have the.
Oh, you're talking about webbing?
Yeah, we had more webbing in our fingers. How does nature know to get rid of that? Just
Well,
'cause we don't
it's
do
not so much that nature knows, it's just what gets selected for. And so those traits that are more adaptive, so if you were better able to handle like tools and things like that by not having that webbing, then those are the ones that are gonna be the biggest and strongest and have the most mates and reproduce. So that's what it means by natural selection. Chance can also play a part in that. That's called genetic drift, where just randomly those are the ones that survive and reproduce. Okay? All right. Sure. So archaea organize their DNA differently. Also their cell walls and membranes are different, but I already gave you that. And they are known as extremophiles.
It sounds so funny. I don't know why.
And then eukarya or eukaryotic cells, there are protists. That would be the second poster in the back is protists, things like amoeba and paramecium. Plants. What could we say plants are? You've already learned this. We already did this chapter. Starts with an A. Autotrophs.
What about chemotrophs?
Fungi are absorptive heterotrophs. Absorptive heterotrophs. Where we are ingestive heterotrophs and we are multicellular. There are whole categories of autotrophs. You can be a plant and an autotroph. You can be a bacteria and an autotroph. You can be a protist and an autotroph. Yeah. Okay, so plants are autotrophs, fungi are absorptive heterotrophs, and animals are ingestive heterotrophs, and they are multicellular. Okay, so let's practice this. I know this might be small, so you can't read it, but see if you know the answer. Unicellular prokaryotes, unicellular, so they are definitely not multicellular, unicellular prokaryotes, capable of surviving in extreme environments, such as those with high salinity and temperature and low pH. What would that be?
Okay.
Let's see what the mountain says. It says it's a highlighter. Let's see what the mountain says.
Oh.
Yes, the mountain said yes. Okay, unicellular prokaryotes adapted to living almost anywhere. What would that be? Bacteria. Yes. Okay, what are unicellular and multicellular eukaryotes containing the four kingdoms, Protista, Plantae, Fungi, and Animalia? Yes, says the mountain. Good.
You're like a Native American god. The mountain is telling you.
The mountain guide.
Yeah.
Okay, pardon? No, if you remember earlier I said you can spell it with a K or a C. Okay, so on this, there's charts in your book where you can have domain, here I'll go a little bit smaller, domain bacteria, domain archaea, and then here you can see domain eukarya. They give you examples of each so you can be more familiar with it if you want to review that a little bit more. Okay, how are these classified? How are they named? Scientific nomenclature, it's binomial. What do you hear in binomial?
Two.
And you use the genus and species name. So underneath scientific name, binomial nomenclature, genus then species. Genus then species. Got it? Okay, here we go. Another chance for a hundy. I believe in you.
Is that you? I can't see. Oh, your sister. Okay.
That's me.
Oh.
I'm holding my sister's kids.
Oh.
They're 9 now.
Oh. How nice.
Okay. Will we get 100?
Who got a rock?
No.
Stand up.
I'm watching you. So sad I'm watching you. Yeah, 30 seconds to failure. You just were the one person in all this class. Okay. What did they say? Primates. Okay, so they picked primates. What classification category is primate? Order. No monkey.
Ridiculously photogenic guys. That's not me. I need to make, how do you make one of those lists?
You just write it up, and then you come in here when I'm not on my computer, like at lunch or nutrition, and you just type it in.
Oh, really?
You just need to have 40 items for your list, because I have 40 clickers.
Okay.
What?
You can just like randomly come in here whenever?
Well, no, I have to set it up for you. Yeah, and I'll show you do this, and then you can type it in. Yeah, you just have to come up with a list of 40 appropriate things.
Right.
Okay, now let's go to the end. The great thing about the end is you've actually already learned it. Okay, this part will be a review for you. The first one is organization of the biosphere. And you already have everything for this slate. Tell them what it is. Tell them what the biosphere is.
Oh, where organisms exist. Air, H2O, no, it's enough.
Okay, and Blue, please take on the next two terms, communities and ecosystem, as well as everything you see on this diagram. This should be a review for you. You had a unit on it.
Same area. Population
Follow the arrows. And Blue, please review this topic about chemical cycling versus energy flow. Go ahead. Blue, this is you. How you doing, Katie? All right. That easy peasy, right? You already learned it, tested over it. So you're good. Let's meet Farmer Ted. Okay. Hi, Farmer Ted. Man modifies the ecosystems usually for our own purposes. Okay, for our own purposes. So humans tend to modify ecosystems for their own purposes. Oftentimes, what do you think is the correct word to insert here? Increasing biodiversity or decreasing biodiversity? Decreasing. Decreasing biodiversity.
Humans are bad.
Man is bad. That would be the right answer to almost every ecology question. Okay, so biodiversity, we're going to be talking about this, so we'll circle back around to this at the end of the year. Biodiversity is really, there are different, let me come back to that because I have a slide for that. I want to just hit this really quick. I think I want to hit this really quick. On ecosystems that are threatened, coral reefs and rainforests. Coral reefs are like the rainforest of the ocean, okay? And they're the most diverse, two of the most diverse ecosystems, but yet we are doing things to damage them. How, I think you know and you've heard tons about how we damage rainforests. What kinds of things do we do to damage coral reefs? What are some things? Yes?
Like using motors on boats.
Motors on boats, good.
Oil spills.
Oil spills.
Global warming, sun makes too much sun, and coral reefs die, and stuff like that.
Okay, good. Yes?
Trash in the ocean.
Trash in the ocean.
Visit and break off pieces of
visit them and break off pieces of them. These are all accurate. Sediment, runoff, those type of things have a problem with the coral reefs as well. So these are two of our most threatened ecosystems. And the question is, why do you want a healthy ecosystem? Why should that be important to you? And the reason is you're trying to maintain that biodiversity. And when you talk about biodiversity, there's kind of a three-pronged issue. You want to have a lot of genetic biodiversity. Like, look around this room. We are different. We are not just one type of people. There's variety in here. That's examples of genetic biodiversity. You want to have different numbers of species, and you want to have diversity in the different ecosystems that are out there. So underneath your biodiversity, it's the total number of species, the variability of their genes, and the different ecosystems where they can live. And we all learn. You could be super selfish about it if you wanted to. You could say, well, the reason why you should maintain, let's say, these tropical rainforests and the biodiversity there is because you might discover a drug that helps cure some sort of terrible disease. Or you could think of it selfishly. Do you remember learning about the Irish potato famine?
No.
Okay?
Yes.
So they had a species of potato that got wiped out by a fungus, and there was no other ones to grow. So you want to maintain diversity so that some parasite or predator doesn't wipe out your only source of that particular food source. Okay? Or we get rubber from rubber trees. Or it's just nice to have shade when you have trees at all. So we're going to talk later about the benefits of biodiversity. Okay? But healthy ecosystems you want to have greater biodiversity, both genes, species, and ecosystems. All right, and extinction, I should have made that bold, but I didn't, so make it bold for you. Extinction is death of a species or larger classification category. It is estimated right now that we could be losing 400 plus species a day. 400 plus species a day. Now, there are ecological hotspots like Ecuador, where you have a real concentration of diversity and number of species. And so when you do something to disrupt that area, then you can end up wiping out a lot of those species. Changes in temperature can affect species and where they can live, and we'll be talking more about that as we progress through the year.
Oh.
Yay! One. What's your maximum you've had is 2 in a row. Okay. Good job. One does not simply. All right. Again, this is something I know you hit it hard last year, and I'm sure you hit it in middle school as well. The process of the scientific method. So let's do a quick review right here. Okay, so what's the first thing you do? You make some what?
Hypothesis.
Not before your hypothesis. Observations. Good. Okay. Make some observations. Then you're focused up here. What's the first thing you do in your lab? You have a driving what? Question. So you ask a question, and then you do a little what on it? Background. A little bit of research, and then you're ready to form a hypothesis. Good. And then you're ready to have an experiment. And then you what?
Data.
Look at your data, you analyze it, and then what? Your conclusions. So I think you have a really good handle on the scientific method. Could I please have Slate? Please, side note here. When you're doing your experiment, it's not always that you're going to support your hypothesis, right? We saw that even in the roly-poly lab. Some of you could support that they preferred one environment over another. Some of you could not. So then you might have to revisit, do another experiment, check to see if you have a faulty experiment, and go again. Could I have Slate please differentiate between qualitative and quantitative data? Go ahead, Slate.
Quantitative is like numbers, and qualitative is like what you can like observe. You know, kind of like a
Okay, and then which one is something you can plot on a graph? Quantitative. Perfect. Okay, Blue, could you please differentiate between the variables? Go ahead. All right. Now, your foundations class that you had last year was all about supporting the next generation science standards, and especially the practices of a scientist. And there's a list that's always up here on my board about cross-cutting concepts, your science practice, and your disciplinary core ideas in biology. And your labs were working very hard to support that. So I want you to think through when we're doing our labs. For the first one, we always start by asking a asking a what? Question. Okay, that goes in your notes. And then we're developing and using models. Like when you were bears and out foraging for food, in your choice chambers. Planning and carrying out investigations, analyzing and interpreting data, using mathematics like your chi-square test to see if your data was significant, constructing explanations, engaging in argument from evidence, claim, evidence, reason that you do in your analysis, engaging in argument from evidence, and obtaining, evaluating, and communicating information. Some of you are great at that communicating, some of you are going to work a little harder on that. Okay, and last but not least, and I'm oh so proud of you, is science and social responsibility. You have already done several additional objectives in this class. Some of those were bioethical issues. Some of you were concerned, like, is there a right answer or a wrong answer? Not always in all of those. You have to work through that. The thing you want to remember about, we've got just a couple terms, is technology. Technology is the application of scientific knowledge for a practical purpose. The application of scientific knowledge for a practical purpose. Okay, and do I have any preemies in this room? Okay, and how early were you born? 2 months early. So 8 weeks about, right? That was the same for my Caleb. How about you? 2 weeks, so not that early. Anybody else? Yes?
A month.
A month early, okay. So I remember when Caleb was born, my oldest, early, in the neonatal intensive care unit, there were babies that weren't born, like Caleb was 32 weeks early. There were babies that were 30 weeks early, 25, not early, but were born, sorry, that would be like super scary. What? Okay, but were born, instead of being born at 32 weeks, they were born at 30 weeks, so 10 weeks early, right? There are some that are born at 25, okay? So the question is, because we have the ability to save some children, should we save them? You can keep alive somebody who's born at 20 weeks, which is they've only spent half the time inside, okay? You can keep them alive, and the question is, should you keep them alive? And we have the technology, like for instance, you could maybe get a pretty good chance of selecting the sex of your offspring, but is that okay to do just because we have the technology? Now, if you have a sex-linked disease, and if you gave birth to a boy and that boy would have a premature death as a result, would you have any problem saying, oh no, for them, they can choose a girl? Okay, would you be okay with that? Those are some of the issues. Because the science is getting better and better, we still need to decide, is that okay to know? For instance, some of you might have a gene in you that would, probably you'll have Huntington's disease. That would be really sad, but you could have Huntington's disease as an adult. That's when you get tremors and you lose the ability to control your body. Does that have to be disclosed in a job situation? Because they think, well, I don't want to train you. You might, not be around by the time you're 45. Or maybe I don't want you to be an airline pilot. So just because we have the technology, what are we going to do with it? That is the bigger concern, okay? So on science, science does not make value judgments. Moral and ethical decisions must be made by all people. Science does not make value judgments. Moral and ethical decisions must be made by all people. And the questions are, how will we use the technology we have? How will we use the technology we have? And just because we have the ability to do something, should we? How will we use the technology we have? And just because we have the ability to do something, should we? Okay? And that, my friends, is the end. And during the review, I'll ask you some more questions. You want to pack up, take all your things. I'm locking my room. It won't be available during lunch. So you want to grab all your stuff now. And I hope you have a good day. Okay, now, bye-bye.